Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. I try to get to all the BIC conferences if I can, but they don't let me out very much. Anyway, I'll begin by respectfully acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon we meet today and pay my respects to elders, past, present, and also emerging. I've been asked to talk about the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, which was a long time in the planning. And it's all to do with partnership. And when I first arrived here in March 2012, I was saying that it's no good having a zero-sum game, because all that means is I'm +5 one day and you're -5, but you'll just get me back, and you'll be +100 the next day, I'll be -100. So we don't work like that in the department. So it's all about partnership. So I'll be able to take you through what we're doing on that. Previous speakers also mentioned ticketing. We're launching a new generation ticketing project, and I think John Calabaro yesterday said it'll bring real-time information, but also bring a lot more benefits, because if anybody tries to use the public transport network, and bus in particular, there's two main impediments. One is, how do you pay the driver? And two, do you need a PhD to understand the timetable system? So what new generation ticketing is doing is you just rock up with a card and just tap it and that'll pay it. And if you download the app, and we've got a pretty good app on TransLink, which will tell you when the next bus, rail, ferry or tram is coming. So there'll be a bit about that as well. But what we're trying to do in the department, we've been trying for a long time, is to create a single integrated transport network that's accessible to everyone. So that's what we're building, and you're a key part of that. Now, rather than me read out loads and loads of stats on what the department does, I've got a little video, hopefully, that will work. If I'm pressing the right video button, yeah, that's me. There's my video.
Yeah, mate. Took your time. Where'd you get this vest from? Not yours, is it? Take it back.
It's better than me reading out loads of stats. The question we get asked more than anything else is what happened to the lady dog, but that's in the sequel to this. Right. That's the numbers of passenger trips, and it's only in April that the Com Games finished. And bear in mind, I've been involved in Manchester Commonwealth Games, but also in the Olympics in London in 2012. I reckon this was better planned, and it was better planned because the distance between venues was 43 kilometres, the maximum distance. Also, if you take the previous Com Games in Glasgow, every single venue was fed by heavy rail. We couldn't get any cars to any of the venues, so we had to rely on public transport. The Games, by any measure, was a tremendous success. 80 gold medals, 59 silver, 59 bronze. equal number of medals for men and women, and we integrated the games, the disabled games in with the normal games, which is the first time that's ever been done. The only difficulty I had when I was talking to the Gold Coast Games board, it was led by a guy called Peter Beattie, who you might have heard of. And I said, yeah, Peter, it'll be right. Don't worry, I'll sort it out for you, and I'll be in the Transport Coordination Centre for the duration. So I thought he'd keep that to himself, but the next day he went on broadcast media and told everybody that Neil said it'll be all right. So no pressure there. That's our workforce. There was a lot of volunteers. We had over 500 volunteers there, but that's the amount of hours we collectively worked at the bottom, 48,000 hours. So it wasn't just the transport network, it wasn't just the stuff that we were doing. Our staff were heavily involved as well, and really got a lot out of it. And you've got to grasp these opportunities when you can, because they don't come along very often. Okay, so that's what we did. That was the big numbers. How do we plan it? Well, basically, is that the right slide? Yep. So basically, that was the objectives. About 1 million ticketed spectators, 50,000 games workforce and volunteers to get around the network, 6,600 athletes, 3,500 accredited media. So the numbers are there. It was a massive task, and it's basically on a ribbon development. So you've got one rail line and basically the M1 down there as well. And bear in mind that the M1 is one of our most congested roads. There's 145,000 vehicles a day use that. So you might have remembered in the press as well, there's all sorts of dire predictions that it was going to be a disaster, and Gold Coast has been going to be a ghost town. So basically, we had to get past all that as well, which wasn't easy. So challenges, bear in mind that it wasn't just the Gold Coast where the venues, there were here in Cairns, there's Brisbane and also Townsville involved. A lot smaller venues, a lot smaller ticketing, but basically what we did there was make sure that everything was worked to its best possible outcome. And again, working with people in this room and partners in this room to make sure people got to the venue on time, but also got home on time as well. Because this wasn't just the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. This wasn't even Queensland's Commonwealth Games. This was Australia's Commonwealth Games. Going past one there. So we modelled it. We used a massive amount of transport modelling, and of course, colleagues in the room, you will know that the only thing you can guarantee about a model is it'll be wrong. So we used loads and loads of scenarios. We had 8 major models, 360 scenarios we tested. We were worried about the weather as well, because as luck would have it, in April we had an offshore tropical cyclone that we thought was going to head our way. Unfortunately, it didn't. So lots and lots and lots of modelling, and that's something that one of the learnings that you'll get from any big event like this. You've got to keep on learning all the time. And one of the things in the title is that we actually manage the network in real time, and I'll come to that next. So this is not working incredibly well. Right. You'll have seen a lot about this in the press as well. We actually had our own Com Games journey planner, so to get from the park and ride sites to each venue. It took ages and ages and ages to put it together, and our politicians were really nervous about it being launched in case somebody found a glitch in it or a link that didn't work. In the end, we proved that they all did work, and we put them out. So the tram, which we connected from Gold Coast Hospital to Helensville and linked it up there with a bus and car drop-off point outside of Helensville. We also did a lot of work on the road network. We spent a lot of money on the road network. At Queensland Rail, we made sure that we had 6 trains an hour minimum, ramping up to 8. And on the bus network, 24-hour operation on 13 key routes, turn up and go. And we actually really ramped the bus network up. And it was a big task, and I'm grateful to a lot of people that's in the room at the moment for all their efforts. We built a lot of park and rides, temporary park and rides, 13 of them, strategically located. So park and ride were built, and then we had to service from the park and ride into where the venue was. So we're streaming people to the right park and ride. And what you see there on that slide, which is a bit complicated, but can show you from which park and ride went to which venue. And we're streaming people through the app to the right park and ride site, so they can get straight into the venue. About 400 buses on that, plus from all over Australia, 600 drivers, 20 routes to venue, and we had a 24-hour operation. I can't emphasize the amount of effort that you've got to put into all of this, because just two points quickly. One is that the opening ceremony, if you saw it, and the closing ceremony weren't great, right? From me in the bunker that I was at on the closing ceremony, I was just making sure everything was right from a public transport network. But on the opening ceremony, there was a lot of problems because we had 6 VVIPs, very, very important people. First 2 came out of the opening ceremony, and the police had blocked the road off to stop spectators getting to the buses. So Charles and Camilla come out. Hey, hello there, I'm Charles, don't you know? Got lots of handshake and all the rest, got in his limo and went. Then the Prime Minister of the day came out, lots of selfies, got in his limo and went. Then the Governor General and his wife came out, lots of handshaking, in his limo and went. Now that was supposed to take 8 minutes, it took 42 minutes, by which time the crowds had built up and everybody's getting really brassed off because you can't see why the road was blocked off. So we corrected that in the closing ceremony. Unfortunately, in the closing ceremony, because the athletes had gone all the way around and there was nothing to do, nothing to eat or nothing to drink, they all kept streaming out. So we had eyes on the stadium. So we moved the whole of the Scottish team, all 62 of them, from the stadium all the way to their hotel, and from their hotel all the way down to Broadbeach before the actual finishing ceremony had happened. So we actually cleared the stadium on the closing ceremony in about 40 minutes, which is interesting. So I've got to say the previous Prime Minister, because just remember there's only 2 more Prime Ministers until Christmas. That is a problem that we're going to have to sort out, because honestly, I'm now the last DG left from 2012, and I'm actually the longest serving DG at a federal level at 6 years. Now that's scary when you think about it. Anyway, moving on. So if you look at the public transport patronage, that's a before and after. Average daily passenger journeys pre the event, and then average passenger journeys after the event. So park and ride, obviously not an issue. Daily 130,000 people a day. 49,000 on bus, ramped up to 193,000, 16,000 on the railway, went up to 50,000, on the tram 23,000 to 90,000. Now the figures on the tram are actual numbers because there's laser counters above each door, so we know the ons and offs. The bus is estimated, but all the buses were really, really full, and the train network is estimated as well, but I think the train network is probably a bit underestimated, so I think there's probably more people travel than we actually estimate. Now you'll have seen on those paragons of virtue, the Courier Mail and the Gold Coast Bulletin, who always tell the truth, particularly about yours truly, that it was an absolute disaster. Well, it wasn't. So those are the figures there. 86% of the people we surveyed, and we surveyed a lot of people, so it was positive. Now, normally through the TransLink tracker, which Matt does, our public transport overall satisfaction is about 71%. That's 86%. And then the stuff on the bottom, efficiency of service, quality of service, feeling safe and secure, which is really important, and access. They're all figures that I think anybody that's doing one of these major events in the world would probably kill for, to be honest. So it all worked. We planned it. We had lots of models. We'd spent a lot of money on the infrastructure. So how did we work it in real time? Well, we had the Public Transport Coordination Centre in Nerang. So 24 operations, that was our hub. We had in that room all the bus operators, rail operators, tram operators. We had my engineering staff, my vehicle inspectors, we had the police, we had the fire brigade, we had the ambulance lot. Everybody was in that whole coordination centre. Did a lot of dry runs, and that's actually the nerve centre. Just behind me is the bit on that whiteboard that we really used to control the whole venues. Each venue was on the whiteboard with a capacity, and we hooked in, and there was previous speakers talking about data. We had real-time information from Ticket Tech on how many people had gone into the stadium. So we knew who was in, we knew when the bump in was, when the bump out was, so we actually controlled everything from there. We had eyes on our own CCTV cameras on the network. We had the CitySafe network from Gold Coast City Council. We had all of the cameras from Queensland Rail and all the cameras in from the tram network. All it piped into that one room, so we had eyes on and we could move in on anything. So one of the things there is it wasn't 100% frenetic. It was frenetic when we were getting people in, then frenetic when we went to get people out. So Matt, myself, and Bill Lansbury, who was running my infrastructure division at the time, joined the Narang RSL. And you see some really interesting people at the Narang RSL. Anyway, because Matt doesn't drink and Bill doesn't drink, I was the designated drinker for the event. And we spent, and it was, because as Comrade Apps has said, I'm now an Aussie, it was hard yakka because we were in there from 6:30 in the morning till 11:30 at night. So what we were able to do was to do things like this, and it's an unfortunate picture where we're thinking, what the hell's going on there, on that top picture? But we had pre-deployed heavy recovery vehicles, we had pre-deployed everything, pre-deployed vehicles, and what we're doing is managing the network in real time. For example, we could move buses around to see what was happening on the day. We could recover vehicles that were on the network that were wrong. We could, a good example is that if you take the marathon, which was on the Sunday, and the weather was spectacularly good, despite the fact we've been telling people what the route was for the marathon, there were still 88 vehicles parked overnight illegally. So we had to clear those all out of the way. And there's a great shot, and it's a drone shot, which shows you the marathon runners. Then the drone goes up, and you see, the Gold Coast in all its glory, blue skies, and that was the money shot for me. So we're integrating everything there, as you see on that bottom bit, accessible transport. We had lots of maxi taxis available as well. All the people have been trained, and that was the hub of it. For the first couple of days, it was pretty intense, and then once we go into a rhythm, it got better and better and better. And by the end of it, I thought we'd done a really spectacularly good job. We did have one suspicious package, which was within the exclusion zone, because each venue's got an exclusion zone. So within 500 metres, there was a suspicious package. It was an esky, actually, with some tape around it. So we closed off all of the roads. We had eyes on, worked out what it was. The bomb skirt turned up with its little robot. Got into this esky, and there was an unexploded banana in it, and a really, really vicious ham sandwich. It had come off the back of a ute, obviously, but everything worked. The roads got closed off. We had the diversions set up, and it all worked really well. And we'd also put in about 20-odd kilometres of games lanes, which we used to ferry people around. Right, that's our incident management system. That's basically how we actually work the feed up to Gold Coast Gold Dock. Matt attended all the Gold Dock meetings for me on that. We had the Joint Coordination Centre, we're coordinating with the police, we had all that sort of stuff. So that's the other thing as well that we learn a very strong lesson is communication. Communication, and in real time. So when we had a breakdown on the motorway, for example, we could deploy resources to it straight away. If we had a broken down bus, which didn't happen very often, in fact it only happened once, we could get things out of the way. And really strong thing is, you can't do it without these fellas here. So they actually, those people there actually were outstanding. So QR, Surfside are in the room, Keolis Downer and Golding on the tram. Games linked with the bus company that we contracted to do the shuttle bus services. KBL, who came in and helped at the end because some of the people that were loading the buses were backpackers, effectively. So KBL and Surfside have got really good ways of loading people really quickly. BCC were an important partner, and Gold Coast City Council, and the cab company at the bottom. So that's the other thing as well. These things are like marriages. You know, you don't always see eye to eye, but you've got to get on with each other and sort things out. And one of the reasons that I was in there for the full 11 days is that because I'm the ultimate delegate of a $9.4 billion organisation, when we needed things, I could just sign off the documentation. Like we worked out on day one, we needed another 13 buses. So we got those from Surfside, or a part of Surfside, within 24 hours. And that was all sorted out. And it didn't have to go like the normal bureaucratic bit of all the way up the tree and all the way down the tree. I was able to sort that out actually on the day. So service delivery partners there, absolutely vital. And, you know, we're going to see that in the future on new generation ticketing. And I've got to pay tribute to the southeast corner bus operators as well, because we've now got our new contracts in place. So, okay, all right, Neil, it worked. Apart from the crappy press that we got, the closing ceremony wasn't, you know, the best, I would have thought. We've now got a legacy situation. So what we're going to do now is going to replicate what we had in Nerang in Brisbane. So we'll have co-located operations. We're going to try and minimize disruption, and at some point I'm going to come back to you people in the room and say, how do you want to get involved in all this? Because previous speakers said congestion is going to be a problem. It is. I can't build my way out of the congestion that we're going to have. We've made massive investments in the state in terms of our busways, which, you know, 30 odd kilometres of dedicated busways. But if you look at the birth rate in Queensland and the people getting licences and car ownerships exceeding that. So I think year on year is about 128,000 additional cars on the road. Now, congestion's a function of economic activity, so we're going to have to manage our way out of it. And previous speakers have talked about data. So we're dumping masses of amount of information into data and how we use it, because as a DG, I've got loads and loads and loads of data, but not that much information on which to make decisions. So putting a lot of effort into data, putting a lot of effort into autonomous vehicles, and a lot of effort into mobility as a service. And if our chairman wants it, I can come back next year and tell you where we are with mobility as a service and connecting autonomous vehicles, because Jeff, my colleague, has hidden his light under a bushel a bit, because the NTC, National Transport Commission, which I'm a member of, have got a framework, a law framework now for operating autonomous vehicles anywhere in Australia. So we're trying to keep up. So as far as TMR is concerned, what I tell my people, do you want to be an agent of change, or do you want to be a victim of change? I know what I want to be. I want to be an agent of change. So we're trying to keep ahead of the curve. So why am I telling you all this? Because you can only do it in partnership. You can't do it by yourself. And although we've got lots of resources in the state, although we've got lots of ability to influence things, we can't do it by ourselves. So partnership's really, really important to me. So you'll see more on the coordination centre as we move forward. The bottom picture is how it's going to look. The top picture is the TCC that we've had in the past. So that'll be located at Kedron, right next to the State Disaster Management Centre. Why is that? Well, one, I've got a big building there that I own that's empty. Two, it's got a direct link to the motorway network. And three, in the event of a nuclear war, that's where I'll be anyway. So, or a tropical cyclone, we're not going to get a nuclear war. So what's the benefits? Oh, God. We've got to keep the southeast corner and everywhere else moving. We've got to maximise the capacity of our network. I can't build my way out of problems, although we're doing our very best on the M1 at the moment. More reliable travel times. That's the bit that people start getting worried about. You know, if I leave the house at such and such a time, will I get to my hospital appointment, dental appointment? You know, will I meet the kids, whatever. So that's why we're dumping a lot of time into mobility as a service. Trying to reduce the overall delays and make sure that customers have got, you know, maximum information. See, what we're trying to do with TMR is make it the employer of choice. And it's really hard because everybody's an expert on public transport, aren't they? Must be easy. I've ridden on a bus once, you know, I've been in a train, must be easy. Why don't you just fix it? You know, there's some stuff in the Courier Mail, I think, on Monday, where they're talking about high-speed trains, and, you know, when will that be? Well, the price tag's over 70 billion, and secondly, 2 years on the railway is just a heartbeat. So people in this room, you're our most flexible public transport asset. So we've got to keep on working together to start delivering these things on there. Now, what normally happens, if the Minister was here, or the Deputy Prime Minister here, or the Shadow Minister, they'd run away. Well, I'm staying. So you've got time to ask me any questions you want, apart from I will not answer any questions at all on Sunderland Football Club, which is now in the 3rd division. Thanks very much.